I'm going to boil down 10 years of agency experience in the next 10 minutes for you. My name is Hamza. I've been in the agency space for well over a decade now. I've grown multiple agencies, not just seven figures, but even eight figures. And I'm going to share with you everything that I've done along the line, the good, the bad, the ugly, so that you can go ahead and make more money per client and scale to 7 and 8 figures a lot faster. So stay until the end of this video because I'm going to share with you exactly what I've done to get to the point right now in my career where I'm able to charge $15,000 to $25,000 per month per client that works with me, rather than the smaller retainers that I used to charge back in the day of $1,000, $2,000 a month. Okay, so first and foremost, where am I today? Okay, first and foremost, how did I get into the game? So I used to run an e-com store back in around 2013, and I decided, you know what, I want to get into something that's got higher margins, less overhead, less inventory, so I'm going to get into the agency space. And so when I joined the agency space, I said, you know, I'm going to get into SEO. Search engine optimization, that's what I'm going to sell. So let me find a niche. I had recently gotten married at that point, so I said, you know what, wedding venues, that might be a very good niche because they have a high ticket product to sell, right? A wedding venue can go for like $15,000, $20,000, $25,000. So if I can help them get, one or two more weddings every single month, it's going to pay for my service. But the problem I had back then was getting in front of the decision maker. When I was calling these wedding venues, literally cold calling, 100, 200 people every single day, I wasn't able to get in touch with decision makers. I was just getting in touch with like wedding planners and receptionists that didn't care about SEO. And oftentimes wedding venues were more of a scarcity, right? It's hard to find a wedding venue, at least soon. People book years out for a good wedding venue. So there wasn't a product market fit over there. And stubbornly, I was at it for 6 months before I decided, you know what, let me move on to another niche. So the first lesson that I got over here was when you pick a niche, make sure, one, there's a need for the marketing service, and then two, that there's a total addressable market of, I would say, about 50,000 businesses doing that thing or more. Right? In this case, there are not a lot of wedding venues out there, definitely not 50,000 of them. And so at the end of the day, I was not thinking correctly. I was a noob. Fair play. After that, I decided to get into the niche of roofing. Now, what is interesting about that is because roofers are everywhere, right? Every single home has a roof. There's a big, big need for the service. And on top of it, when I looked at the websites of roofing companies, I saw the phone numbers on there, and oftentimes when I called them, it was the decision maker, in other words, the owner of the roofing company that was picking up the phone. So that's probably one other thing that I would add in over here to when you're picking a niche is make sure you're able to get in touch with the decision maker easily. So the cool thing is that literally within 2 weeks of calling roofing companies, same thing, cold calling every single day, I closed my first couple of deals. And it just felt so much easier. And that's the power of selecting a good niche. All right, so fast forward, grew that agency to well over 100 clients, multi 7 figures, a team of 25 people. We're crushing it. And then we decided to go ahead and put a CEO in place. We decided to become, when I say we, I'm talking about me and my business partner. We went to the board of advisors because we had automated everything. And then we decided to basically start another business. Now, that sounds cool and everything. It's the dream for every agency owner to just be able to grow to multi 7 figures, automate it, collect a cool paycheck every single month, get on a meeting every quarter, which is what we were doing. But that was very, very short-sighted because I really don't believe today that there's a very simple way to just completely automate an agency. I think it's possible if you find really good operators and you just really systematize everything, but to some extent, every business is going to require some degree of input from the owner, at least in the first 5 years. And I think really at that point, what was happening for myself and my business partner at the time is that we were burnt out and we decided to overlook a lot of things that were going wrong in the business. And we decided to over delegate and over automate and just really get rid of our responsibilities quicker than we needed to. And so that's the second lesson that I'll share with you over here is don't get rid of key functions like media buying or sales or really even operating the business until it just becomes so painful that you have to, right? Because it becomes some sort of a bottleneck. I'll give you an example, right? I was doing the sales in my agency until we were about 75K a month. At that point, I had more than enough time to be able to just, run the ads, triage the calls, take the calls, close them, onboard them, etc. But then it came to a point where I was spending so much on ads and I was getting so many appointments that I felt like my leverage was way higher, becoming better at running ads, making good creative, and then eventually pushing that traffic to a sales team that could turn those into closed clients for us. So I removed myself from the sales function only when, again, it had become too painful. So at that point, getting a salesperson in place was the right move. You see, I see a lot of agency owners today. I work with so many agencies that are doing, $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a month, and they're not able to break that seven figures because they oftentimes make a crucial mistake where they replace a function way too soon. If you want to ask me for my opinion, I think an account manager or a client success manager, especially if you have like a larger volume agency, is probably one of the best things that you can do earlier on, rather than you delegating things like sales or media buying or even really the operations of the business. Something else that I learned along the way is you never ever want to kill momentum. Okay, a lot of agencies get into a place where they're running paid ads, they're doing very well with paid ads, and then what ends up happening is that they onboard a bunch of clients and then they become almost frightened that, oh, well, we've got so much operational work to do now, we have to fulfill for all these clients, let's turn off ads. And it's one of the biggest mistakes that you can make because you don't want to completely choke or kill the acquisition part of your business, because really new clientele allows you to diversify and mitigate and hedge against the risk of your current clients leaving. And oftentimes when you bring on new clients and you continue to figure out, it's through the pressure and the fire that is experienced by having a lot of clients to fulfill for that allows most agencies to level up and then refine their process to a point where they can accommodate more clients. But if you want to be comfortable and you want to take it easy all the time, then you're going to go ahead and you're going to kill your client flow. You're going to stop acquiring new clients. You're going to stop taking sales calls. And then you may have some churn, one bad month of churn, and then you're back to where you were before. And then you're having to restart the acquisition wheel over and over again. And that's just not the way to do it. I do believe in periods of growth and consolidation, but you never ever want to kill either one for the sake of the other. So in moments of growth, definitely gas on the pedal, definitely foot on the pedal. You're gassing towards acquiring more. And then once you've acquired, another 20, 30 clients, then what you're doing is you're consolidating a little bit, but you never completely take your foot off the gas with the acquisition. All right. So that's another big lesson that I got. Never ever turn your ads off. Furthermore, one of the biggest things that I see agencies doing, especially in the realm of paid ads and acquisition, they focus way too heavily either on one channel because they think Facebook is going to be everything for them. And then what ends up happening is that, again, one bad month of Facebook advertising, CPMs went up and they're crushed. So they don't diversify enough either to another advertising platform like a YouTube, or they're not creating any organic content and actually creating a presence for themselves online. Because oftentimes what I see today with all the other bigger brands that I advertise for, like coaches, consultants, info products, SaaS that I work with, even agencies that I actually in the background am running the ads for, what I see is the ones that have an actual organic presence, that have a YouTube channel, that have great reviews online. Those are the ones it becomes easier to help acquire more clients and drive traffic to because there's more trust built into that ecosystem. And so don't put your eggs in one basket is the big message over here. Something else that's very, very important in the path to you growing your agency to multi-7 or even 8 figures is having key strategic partnerships. All right, you want to make sure that you're working with some other people that are in the same niche as you, but may have a completely different but complementary product. I'll give you an example. Back in the roofing niche, there were so many companies out there, especially software companies, different tools out there that were also advertising to and had roofers as clients. Okay, there was a bunch of softwares that allowed you to do aerial, satellite, roof inspections. There were tools out there that were CRMs. There were different actual physical products that they would use, like different boots that roofers would wear to get up on roofs that were like anti-slip. And we created partnerships with a bunch of them. Even coaches in the roofing space that were teaching sales, for example. That was a great partnership for us because oftentimes roofers that are trying to get better at sales, their next issue is going to become, well, I need more leads to be able to sell to. So creating strategic partnerships with those types of companies is very, very beneficial. And where do you find a lot of these companies is by going to industry events. You see a lot of agency owners are just stuck in their rooms. They're just chipping away, running ads, writing ads, doing sales calls, but they're not actually getting out there in the real world. There are real businesses out there. These clients that you're speaking to, these prospects that you're speaking to, they're real people that you can meet face to face, shake hands with, have dinner with, and go to industry events. I mean, oftentimes industry events, they cost like $500 for a ticket, $600. A flight ticket is going to cost an extra $300-$500. That's $1,000 to be able to be in person and meet these people. The pipeline that I've been able to build by just going to industry events. I was in Dubai like a month and a half ago, and the amount of contacts that I made, it's already paid that trip like 5 times over. A lot of people, for some reason, think because they're in the online marketing space that they have to stay online. That's not true at all. You don't have to just be online. You can go offline as well to find clients for your online business. It's probably one of the most underrated things I see no one talking about in the space. Like, you can go and find clients outside of in front of your computer screen. You can find partnerships outside of your computer screen. And then lastly, one of the things that I would say is so overlooked is don't be afraid to ask for referrals, okay? If you have clients that are doing well for you, something that I always do is I will get on the phone with them and say, hey, you're doing so good in the program, or you're crushing it with our system. I want to highlight you as a success story. I want to celebrate you, and I want you to be an inspiration for some of the other people out there that may be where you were just 3 months ago or a year ago. Is it cool if we just go onto a Zoom call and I'll ask you a couple questions? 1, I'll get that testimonial. And then 2, at the end of that testimonial, I will ask them for a referral. Like, who is one person that you think could benefit from this exact same system or this exact same program that you've just gone through? And then get the referral. There are so many people out there that know who you could be working with, okay, especially your existing clients, and asking for referrals or even incentivizing the referral is something that not enough people do. Look, a rule of thumb, if you're able to charge or make, let's say, $5,000 off of a client, $5,000 that you could be bringing in that you didn't have before, what are you willing to pay for that? I'd easily be willing to pay $2,000 to $3,000 for that. If that means an extra $5,000 for me, heck, I'll give half of that money away just to acquire them. What would I rather choose? Having that $5,000, or once I give away half of that $2,500, would I rather have that $2,500 or would I have zero? A lot of people step over the freaking dollar to chase the penny. Don't be stingy. Incentivize referrals. And ultimately, make sure that you're continuing to grow. Okay, see, a lot of agency owners, when they run their agency, they hit a stride. That's great. They're making money. They're closing deals. They've got a good sales process. They've got a good marketing system. But then they become complacent. They think that things are always going to remain the way it is. And today, more than ever, we're in the AI age. Okay, things are changing very, very rapidly. And if you don't try to put yourself out of business, in other words, if you don't constantly think, what do I need to do to compete against myself? What would I do to get at a competitive edge against myself? And through that thought process, figure out what I could be doing better to stay ahead of the curve. If you're not thinking like that, you will get outpaced. You will get beaten by someone else out there in the space. So I hope that you were able to enjoy some of these tips as an agency owner that's been in the space for over a decade now. And if you want to learn more, you want to connect maybe one-on-one, feel free to join my school community, or you can hit me up on Instagram. Always here to support any agency owner or info product owner that is looking to grow in the space. Much love to you. Peace out.